We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Coming to you live this morning from the News Channel 5 studios, downtown Nashville. Vice-Mayor Jim Shulman here in the city with us. We're streaming live on Facebook at newschannel5.com. If you have questions or comments, or give us a call. And we've got some folks that waited through the break. We'll go next to Vicki with a question. Good morning, Vicki. Hi, Vicki.
Good morning.
What's your question?
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I want to ask about the malls. How would y'all do about that? And then about camps, because my son have a little sister. I'll be going to camp this summer.
Okay. Yeah.
So Vicky's first question was about, did I say malls? Is
Yeah,
that,
I think so.
Yeah. I know that malls have to be careful too. This is where you've got a lot of retail stores. And
Well, think about how crowded Opry
Right.
Mills gets, right?
So my hope would be that every establishment, remember what I said before, and that is, I certainly wouldn't want to run a business that all of a sudden starts spreading this thing. First of all, it's horrible from a health policy. It's just horrible at all. But from an economic standpoint, underneath it, you really want to be known as a place that is allowing this thing to spread. So I've talked to one group of folks who have at least some authority over a mall, and they say they're looking at whether people have to wear masks and whether there's kind of a flow of people going through, and whether you can actually limit the number of people to make sure there's proper distancing. Those are the types of steps that you want everybody to take. So malls, yeah, same thing with camps. She was talking about camps. Yeah. So we're still a little ways away from that, not too far though. That may depend on the camps themselves, but again, you don't want kids getting sick. And so I know that certain camps, you have to get on a bus. Well, how do you space out kids on a bus if you're going to open up the camp? And how do you let kids participate in activities that may mean that they're touching something that somebody else has touched, whether it's
well, the simple answer to that is you can't stop that. What about Nashville Shores? Nashville Shores, I mean, it's getting to the time of year. It's a fun place.
Well, so Nashville Shores, obviously, if you haven't been there, it's like, lots of water and, people running around like they're on a beach. How do you patrol that? So are the lifeguards now, who are stationed there to help save people, are they going to be watching people distance on the beach and saying, okay, this family can be here? Now, if I'm allowed to open up as Nashville Shores, I would probably say, okay, so let's set up people and you pick a spot, and you got to be very careful. Nick, I don't know. I mean, this is something new to this entire country. We're watching what other countries have done as well as we go into this to make sure that we stay safe. But again, a lot of this is personal responsibility, and I think they tried to make that really clear at the beginning of this thing. So particularly when there were lots of people at the beach and young people were running around, and they said, well, young people may, they may get it, but they may not show symptoms. But if they carry it back into their home and they have an older adult that does have underlying health conditions, they could get them really, really sick. Yeah. And do you really want that on your conscience? I don't think so.
I know, and that's where personal responsibility comes in. Jim, it's interesting, I've thought about this, that the very thing that makes this country so great is one of the things that's making it more difficult to fight the coronavirus. And what I mean by that is we have such wonderful freedoms in this country. We have civil liberties, okay, and we have very independent-minded people with strong opinions that they'll share. You go to a country like China and, you don't abide by the order. Well, you know what they do? They beat you with a stick in the street. They drag you to your apartment, and then they weld the door shut so you can't get back. And you know what? That worked. No one wants to have that happen in this country, but there has to be a balancing act, and that's part of the problem here, is that the freedoms we have, and no one wants our civil liberties taken away, but at the same time, your point is excellent. I want my civil liberties, but I sure as heck don't want to bring that virus home to my elderly parents and have them die from that, or anyone else.
And that's what we have to make sure people remember. So, yeah, we don't drag people around in the street and weld their door shut. Remember that whole incident with caning years ago. People were going like, how dare they? But they didn't have any, people didn't do any crimes because they were concerned about caning. We don't want to ever get to that point in this country. I understand that. But it is everybody's responsibility. So again, if we don't want to get into this situation again and be safer in place, and we want people to be able to go back to work, and you don't want to take the risk of infecting somebody else, do what you're supposed to do.
Yep. Let's go next to, I believe we've got Tasha. Tasha, good morning. Hi, Tasha. What's your question, ma'am?
Hi, Nick.
Hi.
Mayor.
Hey, Tasha.
I'm a hairstylist, and so we don't have a way of social distancing. So what guidelines would you all, or are you working on any guidelines to put into perspective for us? Because we don't have a way to social distance. I can't do my client's hair 6 feet away.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So I think Georgia, state of Georgia, announced they are starting to lift restrictions, and I think barbers was one of those, and obviously salons, I think, are in that particular order for Georgia. My guess is that's going to be coming fairly soon, just because, I mean, look at us. We all need to be able to go to a barber and get our hair cut because we haven't had a cut in months. So that's going to be one of the, I would guess that's going to be one of the first things that's going to be coming back online. Could be wrong, but my guess is they're going to start opening those back up. How do you do it? That's going to depend on the health folks giving you some guidance, but obviously it may mean that you have to wear a mask. I'm not sure if you can cut hair with a glove on, but I know that some people do have to wear gloves when you're working with hair dye, I think. You may have to wear a mask. Your customer may have to wear a mask. You can't have a lot of people sitting in your salon at the same time. You may have to set up appointments like that. And then you may have to wash your hands frequently, and maybe you have to take a temperature or something. I don't know. That's getting more into details, which I don't know. But because it's not a mass gathering, as we've talked about, like, you know, at the beach, you may be able to do it, but you're going to have to be very, very careful.
Yeah, the way I look at it, Jim, is I think they'll probably approach it the way doctors and physicians are right now when they have to do, say, emergency procedures surgically. I mean, really, you're going to have to cover up, and you'll be able to do it, but you're going to have to cover up, or the way, really, I think the hairstylists are going to have to be the way our nurses and other first responders and medical professionals are dealing with it. This comment, just, I hear it time and again, and it drives me up the wall. Okay, this is from Lisa, and it's like, if you have fear and have issues, then stay home. Everyone else, go back to work and live it. I mean, it just doesn't get any more selfish than that, okay? And I hear that again. I understand going out and about, but just saying, well, you just stay home, I'm gonna go do whatever the heck I want. That would be fine if someone gets sick and it's just you that gets sick. But you go out and become a carrier and then you roam around and spread it to everyone else. That is the most selfish statement, and I hear that time and again, Jim. Oh, well, if you don't like it, stay home. But, you know, everyone else, you know, go leave, you know, live your life and head on out.
I think.
Do you think about the larger community when you say something like that?
Well, so look at, I think we've been pretty fortunate in Tennessee in terms of, we have over 7,000 cases now, and we're closing in, I think, on 2,000 cases in Davidson County. Those are people that are sick from something that we don't know how to stop at this point. And then you look at a state like New York where thousands of people have died from something that, again, we can't stop at this point. The only way we can stop it is to stay apart. So you got to be so careful. You got to take this thing seriously. I mean, what is amazing to me is that we've never been through anything quite like this. You watch those, if you look at those national graphs, and you see that number just going way up, those are real people. And I mean, other countries experienced it too. Those are people that in many cases may be violently ill and could die. And we just, it's not an acceptable practice. You've got to be so careful.
Back to the phone lines. We have Reverend Fuzz on line 5. Reverend, good morning, Reverend. What's on your mind?
Hey, Nick, you know what? Sunday I went to a local restaurant, and another one of the servers didn't have on a mask. And I said, aren't y'all supposed to have masks? And no one said anything. I said, listen, aren't you people supposed to have masks? And they said nothing. And I said, okay. So I texted the owner of the restaurant, and I said, why your workers don't have on masks? And their reply was, we can't make them wear them. How am I going to make them wear them? I said, well, arrest them. Put them in jail or something. They said, well, what time do you have available to come to work tomorrow? Can you work? And so I said, well, you don't care about people dying, man. I think people out here got to understand, be still for a while. I hate it too, but we got to be still, or you're going to be still if you're in the graveyard. And then there's one quick thing, this toilet tissue thing, I don't know what's going on, but I know that our church, we gave all ours away already, but I bet the churches that haven't been meeting have lots of toilet tissue. And Mayor Shulman, thank you. What about the schools? Don't they have lots of toilet tissue laying up?
Yeah, some of those schools, and by the way, he mentioned churches, and I want to say I think the vast majority of churches have done an amazing job of streaming online and getting it out there, but I do wonder, under this order, I would imagine churches may be some that slowly phase back in as well, maybe with social distancing.
Yeah, churches again have to be real careful. So Pastor Fuzz, I so appreciate you and all your comments. You know, Pastor Fuzz has more energy than most people do. The fact that he is complying is very, very important. And the fact that he's telling other people to comply is also important. So I think if you watch different things, if you watch the national press conferences, you look at the press corps, and they're all spaced out, okay? So we did this at the Metro Council meeting in March. We spaced everybody out so nobody was within 9 feet of each other. So if churches open back up, everybody needs to take precautions. If you're going to have a service, if that's going to be allowed, then space everybody out. You may not be able to get everybody in the congregation. Maybe some people have to watch in an overflow room, but you're protecting your congregation. I mean, that makes sense. They should wear masks. I mean, maybe that's going to be one of the requirements for any type of mass gathering. You have to properly social distance and you have to wear masks. Obviously, now we're starting to finally get masks in so people can actually wear them. But you know, Pastor Fuzz is right. You've got to, these people have got to take responsibility and do what they're supposed to. As for the toilet paper in the schools, I don't know, I hadn't thought about that one.
Well, hopefully it's there for when they come back as well. Listen, Jim, we've got to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll try to get more of the comments coming in on Facebook as well. And if you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to your calls in our final segment with the Vice Mayor right after this.